Welcome to Poor Choices. We are doing the first ever Dadcast with our very own Culture Casino. Welcome, Culture Casino.
Well, thank you for having me, love. I appreciate being here. It's been a minute. We were kind of chatting in the back room, and I'm like, it's so good to see you. And you look like you had so much fun. So yeah.
We don't get to talk enough, as we were chatting about earlier. We were kind of reminiscing on meetups, past meetups, meeting him and the missus, him meeting Mark. And we wanted to spend time together. So I'm actually really glad that you messaged us like, okay, where's this shindig? Like, sure, yeah, come on in. I'm just hanging out here, like prepping for the show. So yeah. Hello, everyone. So let's explain what Dadcast is about. So more recently, we've been kind of talking with the fellowship, and there are quite a few men in the fellowship that have some really good heads on their shoulders. Head on their shoulders. And a lot of dads and a lot of good wisdom.
Well, there might be a lucky dad or two that has two heads on their shoulder, but that's really long. Anyway, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah.
He'd be pretty proud, as this,
But I really wanted to talk to more men, especially because this show has had a lot of female guests and we've had great conversations with females. But I wanted to talk to some experienced people, at least in this context, men. We have like Gary, Chris Gore. I'm trying to think of some guys with kids, and just like, I think this type of experience lends some good thoughts to hopefully people in the chat with not only your relationships with partners, but friendships. And I think that's super important.
Well, I think you're right. I think that the relationship was, especially with your partner, children or no, is incredibly important, because that has to be in the very real sense a partner. I think it's the most important thing. It should be the most important relationship next to, a spiritual relationship that you may have. And, whether you have one or not, but that other person, they have to be there to make up for your shortcomings, and you have to recognize what those are, and vice versa. I mean, that's, that's the glue that holds a relationship together.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's just kind of get into your past, just to see what makes Culture Casino. So I do know you have a wife whom you refer to as the boss.
It is the boss. That's true.
It was so funny. The first few times you referred to her, I actually got confused and thought like, oh, your boss. I didn't know you had a boss. But I mean, yes, she's a boss as well. So where'd you meet her? How'd you meet her? When did you meet her?
This is super boring. Okay. Boring. Okay. So I was a senior in high school. I'd known her before that even, but I was a senior in high school. There you go, Epic Mike. But I was a senior in high school, and we started to date while we were together at church. We played volleyball together. It's very boring. and
no, it's not boring. It's so sweet.
I graduated from high school. I think we were engaged within a year and a half. And then we got married. Not that long after that, I was in my very early 20s. I mean, we were young people, and it was extraordinary. And we had so much in common. We played volleyball for years together. Like, that was something that we did. We sang together. We did pretty much everything together. We went on crazy adventures. Our very first trip to Disneyland together, we took in my truck, one of my trucks, and we had our luggage in the back of the truck, just a regular open pickup truck, and we stopped to get gas halfway along the way, and we went through the car wash with the luggage in the back of.
Oh
And this
no.
is how I knew this was golden, is because, and we weren't married yet. But this is how I knew it was golden, because we both got our clothes like very wet in the suitcase, and she dealt with it very well. And she could have definitely flipped out and lost her mind, and it would have been reasonable for her to lose her mind.
Uh-huh.
Um, you
Mhm.
know, but it was fine. And then it didn't matter anyway, because the following day, I believe, it rained, it just downpoured. And this was back when Disneyland didn't have like California Adventure. It was just this giant parking lot right out in front of the park.
Mhm.
And it was raining so hard at the end of the day, we just kind of splashed our way through the puddles across the parking lot.
Aw.
Yeah, it really didn't matter. And it, like I said, I mean, there was a ton of adventures like that. We took a week-long vacation. Every single every single opportunity we could get away together, we did. And even when we weren't getting away together remotely, we were getting away together locally and doing fun stuff. And it was part of it all, but it was grounded in, obviously for us, it was we would go to church regularly. We the very church we met in is where we got married. um yeah, I know.
How
It
sweet.
was, yeah, it was, in fact, yeah, it was just, and it's amazing because we had friends obviously that were there, that we both went to school with, and then we both showed up. They all showed up at the wedding. But like I said, and then I will not deny, and this is something that everybody needs to accept, I think. You will go through hardship almost always. And you may go through multiple of them. And you'll be like, okay, this isn't working. This isn't worth it. You know, because most of the time that occurs when you stop talking, you stop communicating. So
Mhm.
I always feel like that's the death of a relationship. The minute you stop talking, if you hold something in because you're afraid the other person won't react, or how they will react, if you're worried about their reaction, then there's even more reason to communicate, because you lost something along the way, right? Because
Yeah.
that open communication happened from maybe the first time that maybe you were intimate, or maybe not, but from the very first time that you really started to engage with the other person and decided to have a relationship with them in the first place. So
Yeah.
you can't stop that conversation.
I absolutely agree with that. I think well, if you boil down every breakup you've ever heard of or had
Mhm,
or whatever, the reason is some form of communication error.
mhm, yeah,
So if, like I even count like cheating a communication error. If you had something you wanted to do that you weren't happy in this relationship, maybe you should have talked about it first so that you can have an understanding or work through whatever it is or break up as, a common logical person would do. So, a lot of people that get into fights, it usually is a communication error. So I think a lot of these types of hardships sometimes need um an unbiased eye. What do you think about therapy
I think
in these
I think
instances?
I think whenever you are incurring, whenever something is occurring in your relationship, a hardship of some kind, right? Let's just say that. Sometimes it's that's spawned from not just a lack of communication, but some kind of trauma around the relationship, like a loss of a parent or a severe illness for someone. There's a lot of stories that go around about one of the partners getting cancer, and the other partner, because they don't feel like they can help or they can contribute, they oftentimes pull back from that relationship. And I mean, you see men walk away from ladies. Sometimes ladies walk away from men, and when something is very personal, like testicular cancer or breast cancer,
Mhm.
you'll see those kinds of relationship break up. And that's the absolute worst situation, because if anybody needs support at any point in time, it's when they're under that kind of hardship. But therapy always works, if you both work at it, and that's
Mhm.
that's definitely something to consider. I going through a hardship. There's times when there's more going on inside you than there is in the relationship. That's a problem, and
Absolutely.
you don't recognize it. It does take it. Maybe it takes that third party to point out or have you make that breakthrough. Like, oh shoot, that was
That's
incredibly selfish.
why
Yeah.
I'm having a hard time. I
Mm,
think a lot of couples
mhm.
too, like, um, the relationship with money, and
Always.
people have a really hard time talking about money. I have no idea why, um, personally, but when you talk about it with, like, the way your parents will be like, "No, we're poor. We should never use this, yada, yada, yada." And you grow up in that household, then you have that mindset that you always have to save, save, save. Or maybe it's the opposite where they're just so willy-nilly with their money and then, get into debt and then you're embarrassed about it. And I think those types of conversations are really hard to have because it's.
Well, it's
It's
always a good idea, and this is something that you should take into your personal relationships and your business ones. You always need to sit down once a month, once every 3 months, once every 6 months, and have different sets of goals for that period of time. Whether those are relationship goals
Mm.
or financial goals, but you have to have a short, a middle, and a long-term strategy, and they all have to be reevaluated at those different intervals. Because if they are, then you're always going to be successful in getting to those goals, or you'll be more successful at getting to those goals, because some of them are long lifetime goals, like retirement savings and things like that you're talking about. And I don't think it's unreasonable, and this is something that in our modern era, especially right now with the economy as rough as it is globally, you always have to be willing. Despite your best efforts, you're always going to become there are going to be periods where you're short. You're going to have to spend money that you don't have in some form of credit and establish some kind of a debt. But you always need to have a plan the very moment you do that to pay it back, and you have to stick with it. And the more times you're successful with that kind of a loop, um, the more successful you'll be overall, every single time. And that's the same in relationships, folks. I mean, it's just the boss and I are constantly talking to each other, constantly.
Mhm. That is very interesting. So, culture, is there a book or some sort of journal or somewhere written with these short, long, 1, 2, 1, 3, 6-month goals that you have?
I mean,
Or is this something you talk about?
This is something. Well, I mean, it's probably a compilation of a lot of different thinking, because I read all, that I read all the time. I'm constantly absorbing information. So it's probably a compilation of various books that I've read over time, and you will find a consistent pattern with all these people and how they think. Whether it be like you go look to somebody like a financial guru like Dave Ramsey or somebody like that. You go at people who talk about these things, and I'm not putting him up there for any other reason. That's just the name that popped in my head. But there are a lot of people that talk very plainly about this, and I think that's the other thing people miss. You don't need a lot of fancy words to have these conversations, especially money. Money just needs to be, we don't have enough. We need to save. Um, how do we do
What
that?
ways can we get more or
Yeah.
save more?
Yeah. It doesn't have to be that complicated, but you have to establish goals all the time. And that even goes for leisure time. You just came back from a fabulous vacation, which we were talking about backstage.
Yes, you
Um,
are.
and I think that that's something that you also need to plan for. You should plan for leisure.
Mhm.
You should actually set aside time to relax and recharge. That doesn't always have to cost money. I mean,
No,
you know,
absolutely not.
yeah, so
Mhm. I think, one of the easiest times that, like, Mark and I just relax and not spend we'll just say not spend any money in terms of transportation,
mhm.
food when you go out, drinks, yada, yada. We just like to go in our backyard and literally just sit and watch the sunset.
Yeah, I mean, well, and that's one of the reasons why, like the main greenhouse on the back of the house is like built on the back of the house. So literally, we can walk out the back, double doors, and we're in this beautiful, lush greenhouse with food growing, and things like
I
that. So,
didn't know you had a greenhouse.
well, yeah,
Ah,
this is the second one. We've got another one coming, and then a fourth one, and then I'm going
I'm
to refurbish the one over there.
in love.
Yeah,
Ah,
for us. First of all, growing your own whatever food, flowers, whatnot, is satisfying. And again, if you are looking for a zen, if you're looking for a zen, do that, because it really, the maintenance and care of your plants, and the fact that you have to take the time slowly to evaluate what needs to be done. There's a lot to that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really do think, like, when I think touching grass, that whole, like, statement, it's
Mhm.
been very,
And
apparent these days that not enough people do,
yeah,
but that's what, like, gardening is for
Mhm.
me. I know it's so simple,
Yeah,
or maybe not so simple.
it is. It's very simple, and there's a concept. There's something around this. Um, there's something around this that keeps you grounded. The word grounded is misused all the time now, but like, you literally can be grounded to the earth and feel a connection with the earth. So oftentimes I'll go out with bare feet and walk around in the greenhouse and stuff.
Bare
And
feet?
yeah, or
Oh, I have
stocking feet.
allergies, I can't do that.
No, I understand. Fair enough. But it's just it's things like that can make you feel even more grounded. And I
Mhm.
put coverings down on my floor. It's not bare.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
it's not super
Mm,
bare.
no.
You know what? There is, like, even if you think sleep,
Yeah.
that's like the easiest one to go to. You need to see the sun to feel awake. There is a hormone in your brain called melatonin
Mhm,
that is, I think, secreted by the pineal gland.
mhm.
And as soon as you see light from your computer, which obviously, like, even right now,
Blue light.
that
Yeah,
stops the melatonin.
yeah.
So when you stop that, not see the sun, that's when you're supposed to go to bed. My dad is says this all the time. You should go to sleep with the sun,
Well,
except if you live in Alaska.
that's gonna be a problem. But that's not, honestly, and I see everybody in the chat. Hi, everybody. But, no, you there's something to that, and it's one of the things that I tell people, and it's something that I'm very poor at doing regularly, but you should not sleep with your television on. If you're going to go to
Absolutely
sleep with
not.
your television on, set a sleep timer so you actually get some real sleep, because
Mhm.
you're robbing your brain of that rest period. And your ears are always working. We like to think that that's not true,
Your
but
brain functions.
yeah, and while your brain's filing away, the events of the day or the week or whatever it's doing, when you're having the beautiful REM sleep that you're getting, you are also hearing things so that you don't die, because that's still in us from when we were evolving.
Mhm.
Yeah, so, and it's one of the things that, it's another reason why men and women's hearing is different. You guys hear higher pitch noises more easily than we do. And it's exactly.
Babies.
Yeah, exactly.
It's absolutely true. So
It is.
that if you hear your baby cry, you're going to go and attend to your child,
Mhm.
whatever it may be.
Yeah, and it's just like I said, and those are beautiful differences between um, masculine and feminine. But it's just setting all of that aside. I think if you can just take a couple of minutes um, to relax before you go to bed, just to process the day. For some people, that could be meditation. Some people, it's prayer. Some people, it's just a room full of quiet, or maybe a bath, a bath in a dark room, or whatever. That
Yeah.
those moments before you go to sleep, you dump just a ton of junk, like right then. Your body and your brain will just let it go.
Well, what do you do before you go to sleep?
Who?
Or possible things you do.
Well, I don't get a lot of sleep nowadays because of y'all. But no, I'm just kidding. But no, no,
Whoopsies.
no, it's fine. No, just because we're all very busy doing what we do here to entertain others. But I just, I'll play a video game to try to wind down sometimes. But really, I used to read. Like, I'd go to bed to read, but now if I do that, I'll stay up all night reading because I can't stop. Once I start in a book, I'm done. But no, I'll literally do a deep breathing exercise. And then the most important thing that I do before I go to sleep, right before I fall asleep, is I take a big deep breath. And I let it all go. That, and believe it or not, that has always worked for me from the time I was a little boy. Like right before I go to sleep, it's a ritual where I just take a deep breath, as big a breath as I can take, just to fill my lungs completely, breathing with my diaphragm. And then
Mm.
I let everything out when I let that breath out. And I actually envision that. I picture that. Just I'm done. And then
I love
if you
that.
ask the boss, and she's in the chat, if you ask the boss, she'll tell you I can literally fall asleep in this like 45-second window from the time that I like commit to going to sleep. Just done.
You take that breath, commit, and you're dead.
Yeah.
Asleep. I mean,
Yeah.
no.
Well, that too. I mean, there's an argument to be made for dying when you're sleeping, but yeah.
Everything's still working. Okay, your heart's pumping, your brain's working. And you
Well,
actually do it.
how would you know?
Well, you can wake up.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
Oh, look, truth. Yeah, I like box breathing, which is 4 seconds in, 4-second
Yep.
pause, 4 seconds out, 4-second pause. It's like so relaxing.
Well,
And
I'm doing yoga stretching and working out with that kind of pattern of breathing because I'm working out with
oh,
Polly, Latino slang. Yeah,
culture. We need to do a yoga class together
sounds fun.
with Polly. I think we should do that. We'll make it a
We'll film
content
it.
video.
We'll film it.
I think it'd be
Yeah.
fun.
People can see my butt in the air. It'd be fantastic.
Well, all of us downward dogging.
There you go. Yeah, mostly today it was cobra stretching, but yeah.
Oh, when you work out,
Hmm.
do you wear a man bun?
No, my hair's down. Ask Polly.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. No, again, I mean, I can. That's one of the few times I can make an argument for. And again, you probably know my rules. There are only a handful of situations as a male that you will put your hair up in public if you have long hair. Reason one is because you're riding a horse. If you're riding a horse, you have to pull your hair back, because even in a proper cowboy hat, right, that's properly fitted on your head, you still have a decent chance of tangling your hair and making a complete rat's nest. So if you're out pushing cattle or whatever else, you don't need that by like the third day, because then your hair is like almost non-recoverable. But then the second reason is riding a motorcycle, because same reason, right? That's why a lot of the lady bikers like have really long hair, but they have these braided ponytails so they don't damage their hair.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then if in the course of your work, which happens to be in public, like an auto mechanic or a chef or something like that, even a
You
server,
definitely need to put your hair up.
you definitely have your hair bound up, and not just obviously from the hygiene parts of it, right? But just because it's going to get wrecked. So those types of things, I can make room for that. Working out, I could see, but to be fair, when I was playing racquetball at 4:35 a.m. in the morning, like 5 days a week, I literally was just wearing a headband.
Okay, headband.
Yeah,
Culture headband.
yeah, I've got one, a couple over there. Yeah, or like your man likes to wear like a toque. Like I'll wear a beanie.
Yeah, he likes wearing his too.
Yeah, I'll rock a beanie or something. But like you said, I mean, but when I work out now, if you ask Polly, it's down, and I'm floating out of my hair or out of my face.
Since we're on the topic of hair, sorry, we're skipping a couple super chats, but Mr. Tinkle Trunk for 2 Canadians says, culture hair tips, please.
Okay, these are the basic ones. I always tell people, don't continually use the same product all the time on your hair. So alternate your shampoo regimen. Do use a high quality conditioner. It's the most important thing. Make sure you hydrate your scalp properly. And when you rinse your hair, for whatever the last rinse is, you do a cold rinse, cold water. Not only does it feel good on your scalp, and it does a lot of things up there, it also seals your hair up, because your hair is nothing but a bunch of protein. So yeah, take good care of it. In fact, pretty soon, and I'm going to plug myself, by the time this Christmas rolls around, you'll be able to buy my hair and body care and beard products online. So we will have a store that you can actually buy things that I worked with somebody to develop that are hypoallergenic and organic. So
We'll definitely have to get you to try some of my stuff that I use as well. See if you like it.
Well, and it doesn't have to be that expensive either. Like let's say you don't have a lot of money. there's a lot to be said for various kinds of oils, right? For hair and for beards, like Moroccan oil and things like that.
Eggs.
Well, sure, but I don't, that's not something I would do.
I
Um,
did it. It's
I
good.
believe you. But if let's say you want to just have really strong, robust hair, there is actually a shampoo that's made for horses called Mane and Tail, and
Oh, I love that brand.
yeah, and it actually works really, really well. Very, very strong, very, very much of a protein builder and blocker. So, like I said, but don't use the same product all the time. So, if you like, let's say you have like brand one favorite, brand two favorite, alternate, and don't wash your hair every day if you don't need to.
Oh, absolutely. That's
Yeah.
the worst thing you could do for your hair.
People do it though, because what's actually happening in that second day is the natural oils. And I know that sounds gross, like it's greasy, no, but the natural oils are like working on your hair. So leave that stuff alone.
Yeah.
Leave that
Yeah.
stuff alone.
You gotta let the oils sink in. We also have Cajun Corey for $4.99. Forget hair tips. Culture. How about some tips on keeping up with the beard?
Good quality. Okay, so it depends on what you're doing, but a good quality beard oil is fantastic. The boss bought me another new one to try out that I'm working on right now. But again, we'll have my own product here soon enough. No, I like right now there's coconut oil in my beard.
Nice
Yeah.
and simple. Very cheap. You can get that at the grocery store.
But yeah, and beard hair is hair. That's true, but it's a lot more wiry. And one of the things that why a lot of guys give up on their beard, this is a lot of information. But the guys give up on their beard because it's itchy. Well, it's itchy because it's not hydrated. Because you're not keeping your beard hydrated. So a good quality beard oil. If you're trying to straighten it out or you want to do something fancy with it, a good quality wax or balm is good. Try not to put hairspray in your beard. That's bad. You can. This is something that, like, if you're having problems, like I have this little wrinkle here, it just can't get rid of it at the moment. You can, in order to straighten your beard, use a hair dryer, but you don't use the hot. Use the cold to dry it out and comb it out to try to keep it straight. And it's going to take a while for you to work at that and all of that, but you can certainly do it.
Very interesting.
Yeah. Like I said, and believe it or not, the beard, that particular beard tip came from Gary. You would know him. He's your boss.
Gary, who's now married to Az. Mazel tov.
L'chaim.
Yeah, they got married when they met, apparently, according to Az. So
now that calls for another glass of wine.
Yeah, cheers to the Mr. and Mr. Can't call them bigots anymore.
Yeah, but there's a bunch of, like I said, and there are beard proper washes that you can certainly do. And again, the reason it's itchy is because it's not hydrated. It's the same reason your scalp gets itchy. That's why, not all people, some people just get dandruff because they have dry scalp, but and you can't do anything about it. But I mean, you can use those fancy shampoos and stuff for sure, but it's the same thing with a beard. Like, you get itchy because it's just not hydrated. So just keep your beard hydrated and you'll be good to go.
This is a question that I actually wrote down. Who had better hair when you guys first met? You and the boss.
Oh man, the boss had amazing hair. Let's see. I'm trying to remember.
Longer hair
At that time. Well, no, at that point. So I had recently, I had just gotten done doing a lead role in West Side Story. I played Riff in West Side Story for a pretty big production that I was in. And I had short hair then because that was what the role required. So I had cut my hair, but I've had various hair. But the boss has had she had just ridiculously amazing hair. So yeah, she takes good care of her hair now. So just to be fair, but no, I really then it was her, but I had lots of crazy hair because imagine when I grew up, I had skater hair, so like I had a flap down in the front. I had new wave hair. I had a mohawk at one point in time.
Dang.
Yeah, but it's funny because it was always whatever was happening in SoCal, because I would spend the summers skateboarding and surfing and snorkeling and stuff like that. So, and then we would be in Southern California 3 or 4 months basically a year.
Wow.
Yeah. So, yeah, but
Very cool.
it's just, yeah. We, like I said, and then when the boss and I finally, when we met, we would still go over to SoCal for, at various points in time, probably the equivalent of about a month of time in SoCal. But yeah, I like I said, I love to scuba dive and snorkel and surf and snowboard, and I'm crazy. I can't actually do a lot of that. Like snowboarding, I can't do anymore. My knees are just like shot because I'm old. But yeah,
Happens
I
to all
never,
of us
I never
eventually.
ever, I never ever had a mullet, Corey, Cajun Corey. I never ever had a mullet.
Apparently you looked like Goose, according to Nick.
This is true. Actually, that's so funny. Okay, so the boss was like telling tales out of school when we were in Dallas, and she was showing like, why is that funny? She's in the other room. She's on her big old computer rig. But
Hi, boss.
she was telling stories out of school, and she was showing off pictures. And yes, I did look like Goose from Top Gun back then.
Oh my goodness. Okay, there you go.
I just gotten done playing this character. So, and I had this really wicked. If you send that to anybody, I'll be mad.
I would love a picture of that
not
boss.
Not happening.
Oh, and this is where we see the fun side of the boss come out. Honestly, I'd probably make fun of Mark a lot. Instead of like, fun relationship, pokey.
Yeah.
This is exactly the type of stuff I like in relationships.
And it's actually kind of healthy. First of all, your partner has to keep you in check. Sorry, they should. And that's the other side of it, because we can talk on one side of it about all the things you should do, but part of that is something your partner should do. Your partner should keep you in check. Like, I'm kept humble all the time, and I'm driven. My partner helps me stay driven in everything, not just the YouTube stuff that you guys see here publicly, but in every other aspect of life. And that's really important. Like, to have your partner say, are you challenging yourself? Are you reaching your goals? Is this helping you get where you want to go?
Now, is this something that she or yourself exhibited when you were younger, or is this something that you kind of developed into your relationship?
I think both of us were very driven young people. Consider this: I started my first company before I was out of high school. My first business before I was out of high school. I was still doing, well, it's not that big a deal, but I had a business partner and we started it up. I had already worked for a lot of small businesses that were owned by my family members. So I saw that the value in operating your own business was greater than working for somebody else. That's an entirely other conversation. But it was really important, and I eventually in life, I worked for other people, right? But I always end up migrating back to working for myself. But at a young age, I was already driven. Consider this: I was married, before I was 24. I was married at a young age. I already knew what I wanted to be in life. I didn't quite follow that path. I knew what I didn't want to do. I was very set in that. But the person who kept me motivated and kept me on the path that developed later was the boss. Is like, is this helping you? She does it today. Even on a daily basis, there'll be times when she's like, did you take care of that? Okay, because you need to do that before you do this. And just to follow up. And it's not nagging, and it's not there's no hen pecking or any of these other old fashioned terms that would say that I'm, being driven around or dragged around by my nose. It's the same level of respect that I give her. Hey, did you get this done? Or do you want to do this? Or can I help you get something done? That's the other thing. If you want to help your other party succeed, offer to help. Find ways to help. That's the other thing. Yeah, I get that all the time.
Did you eat today?
She's not wrong though. You've seen how much I stream. There will be days where there will be days where I forget to eat breakfast and I forget to eat lunch.
Oh, yeah.
And so she will literally say, "Did you eat today?" And then
Yeah.
if she doesn't see, like I'll like rinse off my plates and leave them to the side on the counter, like before they go in the dishwasher. So they'll just sit there. And so after I have a meal, so if she doesn't see plates on the countertop, she's flipping out like I didn't eat that day.
Oh, very interesting. Very interesting. Because that's one of the things that, like, especially getting older
Mhm.
in living with my partner, or was I never wanted to get on that point of nagging. And I
It's not a
think
nag.
that I don't ever I never thought I nagged, but I think in one of the relationships I was in, they thought I was nagging by reminding, and I genuinely just was like, "Okay, did you do this?" Or remind you to do this, because guess what? If you forget, it could be more detrimental in the end.
I think it's all in the approach. I think some of it comes with there's a level of maturity. You probably are there already because of your relationship with Mark. So observing you two, you're cute as heck. Um,
Ah,
it's fun to watch you guys. But I think it's all on the approach. Like it needs to be supportive rather than, it can't come off as a criticism. Men don't respond well to criticism. They respond
absolutely not.
well to they respond well to suggestions in the right way, encouragement. Like in believe it or not, men. Gosh, okay, this is gonna. I'm giving away secrets now.
No, this
Um,
is perfect. I want secrets for people
okay,
want to know these things.
um, you can motivate a lot you can motivate men to do a lot of things that maybe they aren't super excited about. Um, and I'm not just going to say with sex. I'm going to say with levels of encouragement, like cooking your favorite meal. Of course, sex works too, or some aspect of it. And I mean, I would be lying if I said that doesn't work. Especially like something that's a little special, like some kind of a show in the bedroom or whatever. Um, but it's just there's a way to go about it that really will drive it home. And again, I mean, it could be like well, I'll do this. Or hey, I've got this. I'll prepare this. If you can just finish taking care of that, or that kind of thing. You can certainly motivate a man to do that. Or that simple.
Interesting
Or that simple.
culture.
Or that simple. Yeah. Sorry.
Because I was gonna say, how do you and say, like, someone isn't being sensitive, like, especially in a relationship, and that you want them to be better about how they approach it. How would you suggest to bring this up without causing a fight?
Mostly, look, if you come at it in a non-confrontational way, you can pretty much get away with almost everything. You can't hit with any kind of criticism, honestly. It's like,
Mhm.
give me a for example, and it doesn't have to be about Mark. You can just give me a for example, and I will
I
tell
don't
you.
know, like, say, oh, here's a common one you hear. The uh women complain about men don't put laundry in the hamper. They put it
Sure.
beside the hamper. Okay.
Mhm.
There we go.
Yeah.
How would you and just they always say, um you keep leaving your stuff outside the hamper. Why don't you put it in the hamper? Okay. That's the statement. So how do you approach that? Do you approach it right away? Do you do it later? Or, like, what words would you say or suggest to kind of circumvent getting into a fight?
Well, I mean, okay, so there's a cute way of going about it. Say, hey, do I need to move the hamper so it's easier for you to get to?
Mm.
That's a cute way of going about it, right? That's the first step. The next step is saying, look, the only reason I'm worried about you not getting the clothes into the hamper is because it can attract a whole host of bugs. It can make the clothes smell bad. I mean, there's a laundry list of things that you could say. There's a
Ah, laundry list.
no, seriously. Yeah, I know. I do that all. There literally is a list of things you can say. Look, I don't want your clothes to be, prematurely worn. It's easier for me to move this to a place where I can sort it if it's all in one place. Um, it, to be fair, in this house, I mean, there oftentimes the laundry baskets, I would say baskets, get turned into multiple piles, but there's if you've already emptied them into the piles, that's a different conversation. But the goal is to preserve the clothes, to keep them in all one place. So I don't want you to not have a pair of socks, right? So if I can't find the other sock and you only get one sock wash, you won't have that other sock. There's like a whole lot of ways to do it. And just a lot of times it's just an explanation. Look, this just makes it way easier for me to get your laundry done. I try to make sure that we both have clean laundry. It's way easier if it's just in one place.
Okay.
Yeah, that kind of thing. As long as it's not confrontational, guys like logical explanations. I know that's strange, but we do. And if you don't come at it from an emotional side of things, I think you'll be better off. Like I said, I mean, to me, it's not a big deal to get the clothes in the hamper. And if I don't, it's usually because I just missed the shot from across the room. So,
yeah, I never throw clothes. I have to literally put it in. Otherwise, it'll never get in the hamper. I wasn't good at sports, so. We got a Graph Web for $2 says hashtag cancel Disney Plus. They're canceling themselves, so we don't got to worry about that.
Thank you, Graph Web. You are the most consistent person on YouTube.
Does Graph always talk about canceling Disney?
No, that is the hashtag Graph always submits.
Cheers. Okay, there we go. I like consistency. Hayden,
sorry.
75 for $20, which Hayden usually don't drop any words. So this is awesome. Let's go Dadcast. I like the concept here. Yeah, it's a working concept. I think we kind of birthed it just hearing Chris Gore and Gary talk just logical stuff, and I really liked it.
I think you're going to find that we need these conversations more and more, because there's so many people that have been disconnected from these kinds of conversations.
Yeah. And it's rooted in, started with the feminism, and then men have just been turning away.
Well, and again, it's not, and Gary says the same thing. I'll say the same thing. It's not feminism per se. It's the wave of feminism that we're combating at the
third
moment.
Wave feminism.
Yeah. I mean, my mom's version of feminism was rad, dude. I mean, and the bosses and her moms. I mean, I've had nothing but strong ladies in my life. I mean, to be fair, but they've never put me in at odds with my masculinity. I've never been, accused of being, overly violent or overtly bad just for being male or masculine in any way. Look, let me tell you something. Most households, starting way back in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, were run by strong women. Mm-hmm. They were butt kickers.
Absolutely.
And they absolutely were, the guys would go home and they would earn an amazing wage and they would work hard. And the ladies understood that they were managing everything else in the household, oftentimes including the money.
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people did, because it just was easier, because you saw how everything cost. You were doing most of the shopping for the household anyways. So.
And when men went shopping, they were usually buying the practical thing outside of so they could fix stuff. I mean, consider this. I mean, back in the day, I learned how to fix cars from like both of my grandfathers and both of my dads, right? Because I came from that's a whole other story, but I came from a home that split. But I technically had 4 grandfathers, but all of them taught me how to work on things. All of them taught me different versions of gardening. All of them, I learned how to, to deal with animals, hunting, you name it. Those were the things, the practical things that the men developed other men to be men. We don't do that anymore. Men don't develop men to be men.
Yeah. This is interesting. So you came from a divorced parents. How old were you approximately when that had happened?
I was between the ages of 6 and 7. A lot of very formative things happened at that age. We can go through all of them if you want.
Now, when did your parents, both of them, remarry? Like in the teen years, preteen?
Oh no, it was just a very few short years after they had both disengaged from my other parents. So yeah.
Okay, and were they amicable? Like, did they co-parent well?
Yeah, I mean, they shared custody of me. My siblings are all from the other marriages. So I'm blessed. I have a lot of siblings, and I did, and
Ah,
they're all split around. So that was great. And I had the best. I had the best of all worlds. I had 4 incredible sets of grandparents.
yeah. One thing I I support divorce in the sense that if you can't make a relationship work, I think there's something to be said
I
about
think
having an amicable split where where you show you can still parent a child
yeah,
and have love for each other in that sense.
there are times when you may be very well purposed for each other at a young age, and because you
Mhm.
weren't fully developed. And this is the other problem. This is the other conversation we have to have. We should probably talk about young people. But if you're not fully developed and you start to engage in adult behaviors, in whatever form they are, I'm not talking about sex. I mean, we could talk about that, but that's not what I'm saying. If you start to become adult, you start to have to perform as an adult. Your purposes change, and so your perspectives may change, which may pull you apart more than any communication barrier could. And I think that's what happens with my parents, just based on hindsight and listening to
Okay.
everybody talk about it. So they very much cared for each other, even in the years after they were separated and married to other people. And they were gaga over me, and that's the most important thing. So,
I love that.
um, yeah, look, quality parenting can happen whether it's whether it's in a married household or a divorced household. You can still do it. So I benefited greatly. I have an incredible stepfather and stepmother, and they both get called mom and dad. They both are treated with the same amount of respect. They both took every bit of responsibility for me. So if I was doubly parented, let's just put it that way. So,
I
no, I have
Hey,
no regrets. No
two
regrets there.
two sets of parents can be wonderful as long as they're as we say, communicating really well together and supporting each other in these decisions. Hopefully.
I don't know that. To be fair, I don't know how different I would have ended up, other than the professions that I adopted later in life. But I still, depending on whose household I grew up in primarily. But again, I mean, I that wouldn't change a thing, and I don't think they would either, because they went on to have very happy lives with other people, and they gave to me a very happy life. And unlike my siblings, I had multiple Christmases and multiple birthdays.
Mm,
Quite spoiled.
gosh, Christmas would be crazy
It
with
was up until just a
that
few years
many.
ago. Could you
uh
imagine going to 4 Christmases?
I watched that movie. That was a hectic movie.
Mhm, mhm.
We got Eric K in the chat. Hi, Eric for $2 says, I give culture so much crap online. I keep him humble.
He does, and he's a good friend. I love Eric to pieces.
Eric is awesome.
There's almost not a week where we haven't, like, texted back and forth a few times, so,
Ah, I
yeah.
just love his pictures of his puppy.
He's the nicest man.
What
Really.
puppy's gorgeous. He's a good dude. And actually, I should check in on you, but hopefully your back's feeling better.
Mm.
So, Andrew Matthews for 2 British pounds says Jojo nags Rocky. I don't think it's nagging. I think she's actually just yelling at him.
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, to get to yelling stage, it has to be pretty bad in relationships. I mean, and if
Well,
you're all, oof.
I oftentimes find that the times that the boss will raise her voice, and again, we don't yell. That's the other thing. If you've met me, I am
I
I'm
don't think
like,
I've ever heard your voice loud.
yeah, and I'm like, and nobody has. I'm. It takes a lot to get me to there, but once you get me there, woe be to you. But
Uh-oh.
yeah, yeah. You want to hear a dad
I don't
voice?
want to see that.
No, but no, the only time that her voice goes up is usually because either I haven't understood what she's trying to say or convey or communicate, um, or she just hasn't expressed it to me. She's been keeping
Mm,
it in. The worst thing in this, if I were giving ladies advice right now, and I guess that's kind of what this is about as well,
yeah.
um, don't hold that in. If you're going through something, if you're struggling with something, even if it's something stupid that a guy's not going to get, just the fact that you're willing to communicate it and get it out and like just indicate, first of all, if you want to avoid frustration, ladies, tell a guy you need his attention for X number of minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Don't ask for more than that. Don't go over that a lot of time. Just tell him this. I need you to listen to me for this long. I don't need you to solve this problem. I just need you to listen to me. If you tell a guy that up front, number one, you'll get his undivided attention. If he's worth his salt, if he's a real guy, if he's a male, if he's masculine, if he's committed to you, he's going to listen to you. Second, while he may not offer you a solution, or maybe he will, you've already vented to the most important person in your life, or the person that should be the most important person in your life, right? And so that shares that weight, because you're going to feel that weight come off of you. And then you can say, if you want suggestions, you say, what do you think? Sometimes you don't have to ask. Sometimes it goes to say, well, have you thought about X?
Mm-hmm.
But oftentimes, if you tell a guy you don't need feedback, he'll take it inside and he'll just say, okay, I understand, whatever. Or, something like that. But you've unloaded. And believe me, guys do that too. We usually do it to each other. That's one of the things you ladies don't understand. I'll unload with the guys. I mean, you should hear backstage sometimes when weird stuff's going on in the background. Dudes are just.
I hear some stuff. It's interesting.
But what that does is you share it.
It's venting. You're venting.
Well, yeah, but it's that distribution of load, and the fact that you were able to get it out and articulate it, which is why, and despite the fact that I think that InstaFace and Bookgram and all this other shit was parted, I freaking hate it. You get those idiots that are yelling on TikTok into their phone, right? And that's not where you do that. I understand that need for that cathartic release, right? But that's not the place for it, because you just told the whole world how stupid you are, or maybe how dumb your problem is, right? Or the fact that you didn't run it by anybody else. You decided yell into the void at a bunch of people who are now going to make fun of you and put you in a collage. Mm-hmm. It's like, do you not get how the internet works? If you go to your boys, go to your girls, get their feedback. But the most important person, you said, if you're really in a good relationship, this is a measure of a good relationship. Communicate something like that. See what happens.
Yeah, I'm with you, boss. This happens a lot, and I think this is a very male characteristic where you want to help solve problems. So we were having an issue at the very beginning when we moved in together with Mark, and I would tell him my problems, like, I don't need you to solve it. And he's like, you need to communicate that.
That's all you need.
Solve so many problems.
She just said in the chat, I mean, that's not baloney. Like, she'll tell me, you don't need to fix this. I just need to tell this to you. Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Because now I don't feel like I just need to listen to you. I need to be focused on what you're saying. That way, if you ask me a question, I'm prepared. Mm-hmm. But otherwise, I'll just sit there. And it's the best thing in the world, because when she's done, the rest of the night's great. Because she's done. She got rid of it. Guys get rid of stuff. It bothers her. I just wave stuff off. She's like, how do you do that? I'm like, it's not that important. I mean, am I mad? I'm mad about this thing. But to be fair, did that matter at all? No.
Yeah.
It really didn't.
I definitely think that you're on to something there. And I think I've confirmed this with like a couple couples, about especially the communicating that you don't need the fixing, and it's solved all of our problems. You get to vent.
It solves it, and not only that, it removes the communication barrier. That's an artificial one to begin with. Yep.
It's not that big of a deal in the grand scheme of things.
And the more you're able to do that, this is the cool thing about this communication thing within your relationship. The more you're able to do that and say, hey, I'm just going to tell you about my day. I don't need you to solve it. There's no problem here that you can fix. I just need to tell you about it. Yep. And That's the best. I mean, even guys can unload on the ladies. We usually don't. That's just not how we're wired.
I'm sure guys can unload on many ladies. Sorry. Anyways.
No, hey, that goes right in line with my 2 heads on a shoulder joke at the very beginning of the stream. So we're good. But no, honestly, look, I mean, ladies, if you train your guy that you just want him to listen for 5 minutes, then honestly, do set that timer, not only for yourself, but for him.
Mm-hmm.
You're more likely to get not only buy-in in the conversation, but the chance that he's really focused on what you're saying.
Yep. One thing that I learned with at least myself is most arguments, if I walk away for 5 minutes, arguments are moot. And it's just, this is something I have to do too. You don't walk away. You don't just walk away. I go, I just need 5 minutes. I'm going to go. I'm going to come back after 5 minutes and then we can talk. And you have to communicate that, because if you just walk away, no one knows what's happening. You'll get mad, blah, blah, blah. But if you communicate that, at least for myself, that's what worked for me and worked for a relationship. I stopped being mad within like 5 minutes. Easy, done, there.
Well, here's the problem. Emotions remove reason.
Absolutely.
So and again, I mean, this feeds into the problem we're dealing with today, and I keep trying to communicate this in 1,000 different ways. Emotion always removes reason, which is why every single piece of information that you are receiving nowadays through the modern media is political. Politics drive emotion. They did studies going all the way back into the 80s. And they found that people that listen to talk radio, the people that said about themselves that they were politically engaged and they were always doing these kinds of things, they did studies and they found that these people only reacted with the emotional sectors of their brain whenever they were confronted with anything that was remotely political. And those studies went on to be confirmed thousands and thousands of times. And the Pew Research Center talks about this all the time. Pew Research is a legitimate organization. There's not many of them left, but that's one of them. Anyway, so when you are always engaged in the emotion and you're not engaging the logic centers of your brain, you no longer are able to respond logically because you're always emotionally ramped up. So stepping back from that, because I don't want to get into politics on your stream. This is not what this is about. This is a relationship conversation. If you can step away from the emotions in an argument, which is what you're describing, that's a win. Not just for you, but for the other person, because they can now disengage from that emotion. Guys separate from emotion like this. Takes longer for ladies. That's okay. We're different. But at the same time, you already described it. You step away from 5 minutes. He's gone. He's not thinking about it that way for 5 minutes. You're going to come to a rational decision and not an emotional one. You're going to have a rational conversation and not an emotional one.
Yep. So that's just a way to deal with arguments that have worked for myself.
Works for everybody. It's not just you, love. It works for everybody. That's sound theory. I mean, if you talk to the boss and you can, the next time we all meet up together. I think she needs to be on the show with you ladies, but she can tell you, I mean, and she's got a background in it. She can talk about the fact that, removing emotional engagement changes the context of any conversation. Truly does.
Yep. Because emotions, like, how many arguments have you seen, like, where it just gets out of hand so quickly because of being offended? And I'm not just saying in a relationship. We've seen it online. We've seen it online.
Well, and that's the other thing. There's no consequences for those kinds of interactions, right? The worst that could happen is you get banned, right? Yeah. So since there's no consequences, you can call everybody, filth, flander, and filth, everything but a good milk cow, and there's not a real person on the other side of that. It's one of the problems that we suffer when we drive. We no longer, because we haven't engaged with the person that's in the car in front of us who's inconveniencing us because they're driving 35 miles an hour in the 70 mile an hour lane. They maybe they're having a bad day.
Mhm.
Maybe they drifted off in thought. Maybe they're having a very emotional conversation. Maybe they're dealing with the death of somebody in their family. You don't know that. And you're the person behind them right now, and they're inconveniencing you. So you're ready to rise to the highest level of angst and anger and frustration, and you're ready to vent at them. That's a person. So it's the same thing. And that's the other problem in relationships, which is why when you have a conversation, and you can do this in business too. In fact, this is the best conversation I've ever had with clients. This is going to be fun. Here we go.
Okay.
I get somebody that's super hot on the phone, and they are no longer talking about the problem that they're dealing with. And I'm not going to go into what I do in real life for a living, but they're no longer like anywhere close to what we were talking about, like their real issue. I'm going to say, look, this conversation's gotten incredibly emotional. We need to step away from it. And if you can do that right now, that's great. We can just get back to the points of the conversation. But if you can't, I tell you what, we'll hang up right now. And when you feel like you can have this business conversation from a business perspective that deals with the issues, I'll be happy to have it. I said, but until then, I got to hang up because I can't do this. This isn't productive. And then I stop. 9 times out of 10, that person's going to immediately fall back to, oh, wow, you're right. I was an emotional asshat. And then you can have then you will immediately develop a better repartee, a better conversation. If not, hang up. That conversation will happen later. And if that person calls you back, there's instead of being here, they're here. Same thing. Say, look, this is too emotional. You clearly are upset. This is not going to get resolved if we can't talk about it, professionally. So I tell you what, when you can do that, we'll talk. So anyway,
very interesting.
Anyway, that's an aside. It
kind of brings me to this like offensive, defensive culture that we have online and in relationships. And I find that people tend to jump to a lot of conclusions, and we can bring politics, pop culture stuff into it, because there have been a string of relationships that I've heard of that's like, you're on the opposite side politically from me, that we can be together, where those type of things that don't immediately have to deal with your relationship. I find that really sad, but I think this is something that's really important in relationships, like modern day relationships. And it's not something that I think most people thought about when they were dating even 10 years ago.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Do you think my grandparents agreed politically?
Probably not. And that's why I think it's really sad that that's what today is.
Do you realize that back then the realization between the political parties and the people that were involved in them understood that there are more that unites us than divides us? I know that seems like a tropey thing to say, but it's actually true. So I had that happening. I have people that are completely the opposite side of the political scale of me in my family. Some of them I can have rational, wonderful conversations with. Others of them, there are two, they completely disengaged because they got emotional. They did something that was incredibly embarrassing to them, and they won't apologize for it. And so it's kept a distance in a relationship for them with another person that doesn't need to exist. Because if you look, you're going to always have, it doesn't matter if it's a relationship between spouses, partners, doesn't matter if it's a relationship between siblings, you're going to have disagreements. You have to figure out a way to knit that all back together. And you have to be able to remove that. And both parties have to say, you know what? It got hot. There was no reason for it. Still love you. You know, but you can't really do that on social media. And you certainly, and nowadays, I mean, people who they can't date somebody because they aren't the same political affiliation. That's a very myopic view and sad view of life. It actually shows just how immature you are
Yep.
as a person, how limited, and this is going to be a big concept, your emotional IQ is.
I love this word, emotional intelligence.
Yeah. And it
Very
and
big bachelor word.
well, and it's a big thing. And it's a big thing. And it's one of the reasons why modern dating culture, segue, modern dating
Yeah.
culture, it caters to those with the lowest possible emotional IQs.
Can we just like mic drop that? That was a beautiful way to say that because it it saddens me that people can't see past those things. Like, let's just bring this into perspective. The whole thing with Shad recently
Mhm.
with that video that he collaboration. Uh Shad and I, for example, are very far away in our religious belief. Do I care to be like, "Oh my god, blah, 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 I can't associate with you." Absolutely not. I actually was trying to learn more about it, and I think that that's a beautiful thing. What you believe in is great, unless you, of course, murder people, but, he's not doing that, so
Yep.
great. We can be friends.
Oh, yeah.
So, you gotta think about, like, the big picture, and I think that, especially with modern day dating, another thing that came up was, like, Barbie movie. If you don't like Barbie as a male, I can't date you. Like, that's a line people are saying. Like, that's that's just really sad
Well,
to
what if
think
I
that
like
it boils down to that.
what if I and I don't like the Barbie movie, but what if I were to say that I like the Barbie movie because Ken was boss?
I feel like that's still on the scale of not liking the Barbie
I
movie because he's
know, but
women.
I do like the Barbie movie, just not for the same reason you do. See, this
Yeah.
is the problem with those lines in the sand, you know, because you can always get a stiff breeze to blow them away, and I look, I'm like, you are so immature. You're very small. You're petty. You're infantile. If those are your perspectives, and this is my little box, and anything that's outside of my little box, I'm worried about. Okay, then you're going to have a very sad, disappointing, unsatisfying, and probably hollow life. And it's going to be filled with constant disappointment and angst. And I can't live in that world. Why do you want to? You're volunteering for that. You are actually volunteering for your own misery. Why? Why?
You'll never find the perfect person to fit in that box.
No. No. First of all, having a different perspective in your own household, and believe me, there's several in that other room. You know,
Mhm.
she's going to throw a sandal at me probably. But anyway, the,
Seems very Asian of her.
yeah, it's all kinds of cultures wing those chocolates at you, lady. I'm just saying, but no, I have video evidence of that. I'll try to find it. But anyway, fairly speaking, um, you need differences. That's
Mhm.
what makes everything interesting. Because I'm going to see something. Okay, so let's say we're traveling together. You're traveling with Mark. Let's say that you're traveling with Mark, and you guys go to Europe together, and you see something, he sees something different, and you're going to point something out, and he's going to point something out that you didn't notice. And do you know why that happened? Because you're different,
Mhm.
and you're going to see a different. Like you walk into an ancient church. Doesn't matter what it is, affiliation, don't care. But you both walk into the same location, and you look around. He's going to notice one thing. You're going to notice something else. And the difference is the beauty. Within the difference is the beauty. And it's an opportunity to unify perspectives. Every time you have a difference with somebody else, if it's a relationship or anywhere else in life, man, I'm sounding like a preacher again. I'll stop. But
No, keep going.
anytime you have that, that's an opportunity for growth, realization. You don't learn anything if you don't have a different perspective from somebody else. And if you can't take away from it, you just talked about it. You talked about getting together with Shad and being able to pull away from him lessons, right? I don't often tell people something, but I considered being a diaconal minister when I was 18 years old, when I met the boss, was going to do that with my life. One of the things I was interested in. So, one of the things I was interested in at a very young age, we're going back to when I was 13, 14, 15 years old, was other faiths. So I went to a mosque. went to temple. I went to a lot of different churches. Do you know what I learned?
What'd you learn?
We're greater because of our differences. There's an opportunity for learning. There's perspective there. And everybody, believe it or not, has kind of the same rough idea. They just want everything to be good. And they want to be able to figure out how to get along with the people that they don't get along with. And it's pretty smart. I mean, we don't have to go that far back. You have you don't have to go that far back. You can go back to Greek history. You can go back. I mean, everybody's been doing this for millennia. And yet we get to this point in time, and this happens every so many generations or so, where we have this collapse of everybody trying to push everybody in the same set of boxes. And that's why they divide people by boxes, not just for the purposes of dividing us so we're always infighting, but also because they only will allow for the proper perspective. So if you fit in these 6 boxes, you're in the right field. But if you're not in all of those 6 boxes, you're wrong. And that happens in relationships too, which is what you're describing. I can't date this person because they don't believe with me lockstep. That's not ever going to work. It's not ever going to work. Yeah. You guys are going to have differences on money. Like, you're going to say, well, I think we should save in this way. And the other person's going to say, you know what? I'd rather put it in this kind of a thing. And there's a difference. You have different perspectives. You're going to have a different choice in movies. You're going to have a different choice in beverages. You're going to have a different choice in food. We are better because of our differences.
Yeah. And the thing that you have to kind of navigate is what to compromise and what to accept in your person. Different choices in beverages, that's not a big deal. Just accept that they like beer and I like wine type of thing, you know? There's a couple things that are kind of hard fast for me. Like, you have to like some different foods because my parents are going to make some weird foods. You know, they'll make it coming over for dinner awkward if you don't like those types of food. I don't know. I'm just trying to like say things that like where I would need that compromise to happen.
But let's turn it back to the conversation we were going to have, because we segued into it, which is modern dating.
Modern dating, yes.
Yeah, and so it's the, if you're so myopic, and I know you and Tugs have a different perspective on the manoverse than I do, or the red pill movement, or whatever else it is, they have some great points. If your expectation is that you want a guy that makes $150,000 a year or $200,000 a year, he has to be 6'3". He has to be in good shape, and all of these other varied requirements, you're going to be disappointed because there's only a small amount of people that actually are going to meet that in life. It's infinitesimally small.
It's a very hard market to break into.
Well, and here's the thing. That guy that you want, based on those criteria, those very limited criteria, by the way, he's got the world. The world is his oyster. So he is the pick of the litter. He can date 6 of those girls at the same time. And that's one of the things why I get on board with a lot of this stuff. So if a lady's going through a dating app, by the way, this is the worst way to go about dating, kids. Get on a phone. You want to make something impersonal? Don't even talk on the phone. Look at a screen. Is that a personal connection? Too fat. Ugly. Too fat. Is that a personal connection? Did you get to know that person at all? What about their profile? Did you read three lines of their profile? Nope. No. I'm sorry. How superficial are you? You want to talk the definition of narcissistic culture? And you're going to tell me that the manosphere guys don't have a point? I mean, it's like, look, I'm a schlubby guy, right? I'm not super fat. I mean, I'm a little overweight right now because, I'm 1,000 years old. I'm relatively fit though. I mean, I can run. I can play sports, I'm pretty smart. I make a decent living. I mean, I make a little better than a decent living, but at the same time, if I were to get on a modern dating app, that's not how I'm being judged. I'm too short. At 5'9", I'm too short.
I was gonna say, I don't think you're short.
I know, but I'm short for the internet, and I'm and it's all these other things. So you keep scrolling, just keep scrolling. The guy that you miss, has enough money that you'll be able to do anything you ever want to do. He owns a company. Well, actually, he owns multiple companies. Okay, and he lives in an amazing house, and he has a great life. And you scroll by him because you didn't meet those other little limited things, and you never got to know him. You looked at a picture and a profile. You didn't talk to him. And that's the problem with modern dating. Honestly, it's because we lack the ability to have interpersonal communication with other people. Fairly. We've tried to boil dating down to, and you ladies and guys alike have allowed that to happen. Boil it down to a series of profiles because you are incapable of engaging in public now. This is how stunted people are emotionally, the emotional IQ. And I'm going to say this, socially, your social IQ is garbage. Seriously. Think about how many people... I'm not saying you specifically because I've met you.
I know. I'm laughing because I met Mark online. But anyways,
I've seen lovely looking ladies out in public. They can't put 3 words together. I'm like, how do you eat? And then I watch Manaverse shows, right? Because those are fun. Those are, gosh, if I have YouTube, the guilty pleasure is to put on a whatever cast and watch the dumbness happen.
Oh yes,
or
it's
whatever.
Reality television.
It is
Podcast style.
Yeah, but I'll look at that and I'll go, wow, I can understand why everybody's making fun of you. And I don't want to be there. I'm just going to tell you that right now. I don't want humanity to be here. I would like you to be back where we were before because we figured out how things worked really, really well. You had marriages that lasted. Consider this: divorce rates are up for a whole host of reasons. One, marriage is disposable. It wasn't even made into a commodity. It was made into an inconvenience. Right? Then you had children. Children were made into an inconvenience. All of these different aspects of life that are required, by the way, for us to continue as a species. Just so you know, you gotta, procreate. Procreation is really important. But if you can't meet somebody because they don't meet your specific tiny little limited set of criteria, do you know where you end up? You end up at 50, 55 years old with a room full of cats and no guy.
So I do have a question. So
sorry, I talked for a long time.
No, it's okay. I didn't want to interrupt the flow. So when you're talking about like scrolling through the app and swipe, left, or I don't know, right? I don't know which way it is. No swipes. Okay. I feel like we naturally do that at a bar where we go, no, don't want to.
Now,
so what would you think is the biggest difference between the two?
Because a guy can turn you around, whether it's at a bar or it's at a church, it's in a restaurant, or it's at a theme park, or wherever people used to naturally meet. Church was one of those places, but we'll set that aside because I'm old and that's where the boss and I met. But that's a different conversation, right? We had that already. But it's like I can change your mind. If let's say, gosh, and I do not wish this on myself that I never met the boss. That would be tragic. That's tragedy for me, not meeting that the right partner in life. But to go into a bar, I despite my appearance, I can turn it around because I think ladies, actually I know for a fact, ladies valuable intelligent conversation. It's why you had me on the stream tonight. It's not because I'm a looker. I'm not Max. Max is beautiful. Holy shit. But seriously, if I were gay, Max would be the guy I'd try to climb on. But that's not the point. That's going to get clipped.
Can we clip that? Can we clip that?
But you understand my point, right? It's just like I can turn that conversation around. I'm funny. I'm engaging. I worked a long time to be socially not awkward. you know, and even socially awkward guys can do well, right?
They can. If you know how to talk to someone, it can mean the difference
Mhm.
in a relationship. And like, I'll kind of refer back to myself and Mark, which I mean, he's very handsome. Okay. He's not very tall, you know, we're the same height. He has one leg, but he charmed the heck
Oh
out of
yeah.
me.
Mark is one of the most charming dudes on the planet. I love him to pieces. You know that. I mean, and he and I can
Mhm.
talk forever, man. I love him. He's just his perspective's great. He's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah,
And
and
yeah.
you are very right that once you like I was interested in him from his profile, whatnot. There is like a connection that I had with him. So when I met him, he charmed the pants off of me. Not the first
Ooh,
date, okay? Not the first
wait a
date,
minute.
but eventually.
No,
Eventually.
wait, not the first date. The second
Second
date?
date, not the second date.
Oh,
Just
okay. Well,
third
Mark,
date.
your game is weak, dude. He and I are gonna have a talk.
I realized what I said after I said it. I didn't
It's fine.
even mean that.
You know me. I'm always gonna go for the low fruit. So there you go.
Oh my goodness. Oh, yeah. So that's why I was laughing earlier when you're talking about the whole like dating app thing. And I'm like, he didn't lie about his leg, but I think there's something beautiful in perseverance and experience. And I don't think a lot of people have that.
Well,
Um,
how could they? This is the other problem we have. Okay, so modern dating lacks a whole lot of personal life experience.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and so this is something we wanted to talk about. Nobody nobody can show me their personal life experience that's under the age of 18. You've had nothing. Nothing's happened in your life. Nothing interesting. By the
Well,
time
you've
I
been
was
catered to your entire
exactly.
life.
Yeah, you had
You're
and if
protected.
and it's possible you had helicopter parents and you've never had any consequences to anything you've ever done in your entire existence. You've suffered from, this is a funny word, affluenza, which was invented to get a kid off of like doing very bad things. And yeah, that was actual defense. Affluenza. Look it up. But
Wow.
anyway, nobody's had that kind of life. Do you know what I did? Like by the time I was 16, I'd already had 3 different jobs. I'd learned multiple different skills. And like I could run a survey crew, like a civil engineering survey crew. I could walk you through how to reassemble radios. I mean, seriously, by the time I was 16, I had 3 different job experiences where I was very proficient. You know, and before that, I learned how to garden, woodwork, repair automobiles.
Dang.
Yeah. So by the
That's
time I was
impressive.
16, I could live.
You could be self-sufficient. Okay, so I will say this. There are not a lot of human beings at 18 when they go off to university, college, whatever it may be, life. We'll just say even life that can cook, clean, pay bills, and do everything on their own,
Yeah.
including myself, which God, it's so sad to think about. But I did have some life experience. I worked a couple jobs.
Had you traveled?
No. And
Okay.
I didn't travel until my early 20s.
And I benefited by the split familial situation that I had. We talked about earlier,
Mhm.
where I was well traveled. Like I literally had been so many different places, Southern California primarily, in various locations. Right. I basically grew up on Pacific Beach. It's something I can talk with Gary about, you know, because of his San Diego connections and everything else.
Mhm.
I can talk to Chris Gore about Los Angeles. I can talk to a lot of people in SoCal. I can even talk to people in North California because I have family up there that operated a lodge for people to stay at. But that's an entirely other conversation.
That's pretty cool.
I traveled, and then, by the way, by the time I was 14, I already knew how to steer a head of cattle. I already knew how to rope. I already knew how to take care of chickens and pigs and everything else. I learned that skill. So it's a different thing. Um, and I always tell people, I'm like, look, your life should have started when it started because you don't have a lot of time here. You need to go out and find every opportunity you have to learn something. If somebody wants to teach you something, learn that. You have to pick up life skills.
Absolutely.
You do.
The things I want to teach my kids, I'm sure you've done quite a lot too.
You have to teach young people everything that you possibly can. In fact, that's, by the way, transference of knowledge is the responsibility of the mentor or the parent, whatever that relationship is. And I started mentoring kids at the age of 18 while I was working 4 jobs. I was running a YMCA prime time, which meant I had 16 children that I was working with. In the hours after I attended high school, I would drive to a separate location. I did this my senior year, towards the end of the year and in through the summer school session, where the kids would get out of their summer school session or they'd get out of their regular session, and I would walk them through stuff. I'd help them with their homework. We would play different types of sports. I would challenge them.
Mm-hmm.
It's important things. It's important things.
Yeah.
Sorry. We skipped off the dating thing. I feel like
no. This is the life. Like, the things that I want, if I have kids, I want to teach them how to camp.
Mm-hmm.
I want Mark to teach them how to shoot guns.
Yes.
I want my grandparents, like my parents, to teach them Vietnamese a lot better than me, and maybe I'll learn with them.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure they learn French even.
Mm-hmm.
It's free in Canada. And what other survival skills? My brothers are both like hobbyists, so they have things like skateboarding, bike riding, mountain climbing, mountaineering, kiteboarding, scuba diving, like all these different hobbies, like amalgamated into teaching kids one day. And I think that's pretty cool. Like, if they could learn that. And of course, they're going to learn one musical instrument.
There's actually a direct tie between intelligence and being able to play an instrument.
Yes. Your brain, the way it solves problems is affected if you know how to play music, which is awesome.
Yeah, I learned, and I can't remember how to do it now. I mean, I could probably pick it up quickly, but I played violin, I played French horn, I played keyboard, I played guitar, I played bass, played drums.
You don't play anything currently?
I can. I'd have to go look for a guitar in the house, but I could probably. No, like I said, and I sing. The singing part of everything was the thing that I really enjoyed the most, was being able to sing. I enjoyed all the other types of performance arts. We talked in the backstage about some stuff that I was involved in. But look, it's just, that's the other thing that we miss from modern dating. You don't know the depth of a person. You don't know how good of a parent they can be. You don't know what they can pass on to your children. Dating is no longer about establishing a family and a partnership. And right now we have something called hookup culture. And that's what these swipey things encourage. That's not encouraging a long-term relationship, is it?
Superficiality, immediate attraction, which, I mean, long-term relationships can be based off of that, but there's also the intention behind it. And I don't think a lot of people have that intention, at least on the swipe apps.
So when the boss and I talk about this subject, and by the way, it does come up in this household, the conversation is always about, okay, to what end is this person trying to establish a relationship? Because the things that they're talking about are incredibly superficial, or they're immutable characteristics that, people can't help. Right. So it's quite possible that people will end up in a relationship that's incredibly hollow for 100 different reasons, not just one or two. When you meet somebody in a bar, there's a very superficial thing there, but that changes because you become engaged in the person that you're speaking with, that you're interacting with in real time, in real terms. You become engaged in what they are. And at that point, it allows you to either develop a stronger connection or something that creates more interest, or you realize, okay, this person may not jive with me. You can't do that on a social media app. Those are designed purely for hookup culture. I'm sorry. Tell me I'm wrong. Tinder is a hookup app.
Absolutely. And there are other ones that try to circumvent that. And
Well,
it's
give me
very
one, because all I can tell you is this: any man or woman worth their salt can game whatever system there is.
no, absolutely. There's always the exception and then
Oh, and
the
that's the other problem. Man, there's a lot of them, but
we
this is
be
one of
we
the other.
become but this has always been a thing. So I've watched Crazy Stupid Love, where that movie, I think it was 20 something. Gotta find out. Women have always been about the exception. I don't know if that's where you're going with it, but now we're trying to go to the rule, the majority.
The problem is the majority doesn't work. The arguments of the majority don't work yet, because the majority still have somewhat traditional values. They still have a somewhat traditional perspective, and it's one of the things that I find fault with. Like, again, whether or not you like most of what the red pill movement has to say.
In what way is it non-effective or accepted or whatnot?
Well, okay, so everybody that comes on something like the Fresh and Fit podcast, right?
Uh-huh.
Or something like that. The ladies that go on there are always trying to define all the exceptions. Well, I'm different because I'm going to be a lawyer, and I interact with lawyers all day. I'm like, well, they interact with you. Are you dating? No, they're fucking young bunnies that are dumb as a stick. And but I'm serious. I mean, that's the problem.
Funny, I didn't expect you to say that.
I don't normally say bad words, that, but it's just that's what's happening. I don't usually curse, guys. She knows that, and I do it occasionally. In my Sunday show, I'll curse because it's late night. But here, I try to keep it within bounds. But they go on these shows, they don't know what they're in for, because they're going to get harsh truth thrown back at them. And so the rule's still the same. Ladies still want a provider and security and all the things. But now they've added additional criteria that there's only a handful of men that are going to be able to provide. And they were like, well, I'm not going to
on a financial aspect.
Sure.
To the level that they expect. And I think that's something that we have to say.
Not just finance. Come on. Height. Right?
Okay, financial, height, looks, all that.
Yeah. What do you do for a living? Well, I'm a garbage man. I make $150,000 a year. Chicks are not going to be super excited about a really well paid, right, but you understand what I'm saying. You understand what I'm saying is a lot of chicks are going to be like turned off because he's I'm a sanitation worker. They don't realize that sanitation guys, like the guy that drives the truck, he's making 120 to 150 a year.
Yeah, me likey.
Yeah, well, maybe, but what if? But he's not tall enough.
Hey, Mark is my height.
No, but you get my point. That's why
I do. But I do understand. Yeah. And that's why I brought up Crazy Stupid Love, which I watched on the plane. It's a movie from 2011.
It's way old. Yeah.
Way old, but it still had the same concepts where females tended to always talk about the exception for some odd reason. Yep. And this is like 12 years old at this point.
Yep.
So I feel like this is just if we could go back even further, I'm sure we would find examples of women looking at the exceptions and trying to keep the hope up. The movie always talked about this, like, oh my God, oh, he likes you. No, he's scared of you. Oh, he's scared of your how much you've worked, or you're too beautiful, or blah, 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 blah. There's always excuses. So I think that it kind of highlighted that. And then it got back to the exceptions in the end.
Look, I mean, and that's it. That's it, though. It's the exception. But here's the problem. You can't be the exception. You can't look for the exception. It's the rule. The guys that are the rule. I mean, Rock the Casbah's in the chat's been commenting all night. Look, plumbers. I know a plumber right now makes like freaking ridiculous money, right? Dude fishes in toilets. He cleans sewers. He does all this stuff all day. But he makes more money than a doctor every year. And yet, if he says he owns this plumbing company or he's a plumber in his dating profile, you think anybody's going to swipe right on him? You would. Again, you're not normal.
I'm not normal. I know. I'm literally the exception.
But you understand what I'm saying? It's like
Yeah.
no. There's no. Swiping right is incredibly rare, and that's just a reality. And it's one of the reasons why I hate dating apps. It's a conversation I'd like to have. I mean, what are you afraid of? If you're afraid to go out in public, if you're afraid to talk to people, you're not a full person. And I'm finding that more and more frequently. Again, there are some people that have phobias, social phobias, and things like that. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking about ordinary people being able to go out and have an interpersonal moment, because interpersonal skills are the things that are happening that have been depleted, depressed, or torn completely out of society, even in school. Do you think kids get to interact interpersonally the way they used to when we were younger? My age? Hell no. They have very regimented, very structured, and then even their interactions with their fellow students are now regimented. They're controlled. And that's not acceptable. I mean, your playtime structured. Do you realize one of the biggest problems with the way colleges are now structured is because you have to be involved in several types of intramurals and other types of activities outside of school to make you well-rounded, which means you have a ridiculous schedule. So from the time that you're 8, if you want to get into Harvard, you got to have all this list of bullshit. And then if you happen to be white, fuck you ain't happening unless you're a legacy. Sorry, didn't bring politics into it, but it's true. And if you happen to be Asian, you're extra fucked. They have no interest in you.
They're basically white.
Yeah, and it's worse. You're worse than white. I'm sorry, and it's true. And even Harvard recently said they're not going to abide by the court's decision. They're still going to fucking discriminate, which really bothers me.
It should be merit-based, meritocracy.
Well, exactly, but no, that's not how it works anymore.
Which is really sad.
Yeah, again, that's not what we're here to talk about, but it's just everything's so interconnected. Yeah,
it absolutely is, and especially with when I say relationships, I'm talking about friendships, family. There's a lot of things that can branch off from this, and that's the crazy thing, because whenever we talk on pop culture news and even politics, relationships are brought up constantly, all the time.
Hey, did I share with you what I'm drinking tonight?
No, please tell me what you're drinking.
Okay, this is called Du Artois. Du Artois, excuse me, Du Artois. There we go, Du Artois. It's a Pinot Noir. Sorry, it's a big fancy French word.
I love it. From where is it?
This. Whoa, hang on. This one's from France.
Okay.
I spend money. I spend money on.
I love France. So I got this from Iruga when I went to the London meetup. It is a Malbec 2021 from Mendoza, Argentina. Nice. Donna Paula. Doña Paula. Yeah. I don't know if I said that right, but it is very good. Iruga, thank you very much.
And I've got another one on the on deck circle, but I hope I don't get there, because one bottle of wine is plenty, kids.
One bottle of wine is too much. I don't want you hurt for tomorrow.
I hurt myself today.
Yeah.
To see if I still feel.
I find it's crazy, kind of the way everything is interconnected with relationships.
Good night, John Edgar. Sorry.
Oh, bye, John Edgar. We talk about let's bring in feminism and Hollywood. Whew. That is a huge thing. And obviously feminism is a huge part of even dating. If I were to date a guy who was I am a feminist, I might get to try to know you, but if you sound like you're simping for me all the time, that's not a relationship. I'm dating an assistant. That's how I would feel, I think.
Okay, so Here's the weird thing, because I've always been able to walk this line. Because before I even got on YouTube, in my regular life and around others, I always called the boss the boss. Sorry. It's just the way it is. I mean, my parents are like, my mom was horrified.
That you called her the boss?
I'm like, you understand that's a term of endearment. Like, I mean, like, she takes care of so much for me. And she doesn't, it doesn't bother her. She understands that's one of the ways in which I show love is to say the boss. I could call her sweetheart, which I do. I could call her love, which I do. You know, I call her name a lot. But for all other purposes, in front of employees and everything else, you know, because again, we work together, right? We've been in this business interest together for a long time. I've always called her the boss, not because we're not equal, not because, you know, she has more say than I do, but because it's fun. It's a matter of respect, and she runs a lot of stuff that I have no interest in doing. Understand that? So your boss is the person that you have they're doing things you have no interest in doing.
The management.
Yeah, and that's why, and this takes us back to the conversation we had earlier, I believe, young lady, which is, I don't want to run that. I don't want to run the nuanced bullshit of the household. I want to go outside. I want to build things. I want to go outside. I want to fix things. I am Merle. I'm the dude. It's true. It's like she's like, oh, can you go fix this? Yes. Hey, there's fox digging underneath the house. I got it. I'll take care of it, you know. And like, you know, and it's just me.
Yeah. One of my favorite podcasters that I like listening to is a morning television show. And they made podcasts out of their like morning content. The thing that stuck with me was, in a relationship, when you move in together, you do the things that you love and or good at. And then you divide everything else after that.
This is true. And what's funny is, like, again, I think we talked about that in a different way earlier in this show. The boss and I have stuff we do. You know, I just happen to get enjoyment out of the stuff I do. I get a lot of enjoyment. She has zero interest in the stuff that I do. None.
Absolutely.
Right?
Same.
And I'm like,
same.
And I'm like, oh, I'm going to go out here. I'm going to go organize the garage. Good. That's what I get. Like, go do that. I love it. She's like, I hate it. So go. You know, it's just like, it's just weird. It's the same thing with, like, you know, everything we do outside. She likes to water the plants. There's certain things she likes to do in the greenhouses, right? I'm like, no, gonna clip. I'm gonna prune things. I'm gonna like shape things. I'm gonna, you know, make sure, you know, the tomatoes are on a pulley system, and, you know, that we get the most yield. And I'm gonna make sure that the fertilizers mix together proper and all that other stuff. She goes out there and she's like, oh, this is really pretty. No, not true. She likes to water. She and right now she's on a mission. There's these little spider mites that are going to town on some of the pepper plants. By the way, pepper plants only are supposed to get like 2.5, 3 foot tall. Right now we have 4.5 foot tall pepper plants. So she's in there. She's like, clean them off. No, you guys are
like
hurt.
Sweet peppers, or are these like jalapeno peppers?
Oh, I have everything. That the one behind me right now, like, we keep cleaning stuff off of the plants. She's making homemade salsa like every week. We're like literally harvesting that much from the greenhouse behind us. We're making salsa.
Wow. Oh, dang.
Yep. She's crushing it.
That is cool. That is
wow.
cool.
And let me tell you, I just got dinner delivered. Yeah.
Okay, she's like super hot in my books now.
I know. Yeah.
Dang,
Now, to be fair, I also cook, but she on nights that I'm streaming, she makes sure I eat. She hates when I don't eat. You guys saw that earlier in the stream.
It's called caring. Okay, she cares for you, and I love that. I really do.
Yeah, but gosh, this is fun, and we're like an hour and 45 minutes in, and I'm like.
I barely feel like this conversation has started, right?
Just started.
Yeah. And that's the thing is like these relationship talks, and especially if you don't do it on a regular basis, you feel like you have so much to say and not enough time to say it at all. And I feel like especially with the modernity of things happening today with the apps and these opinions and just the way that some people are so um what would the word be? Just
Ideologically constrained.
sure, that is actually pretty good. Just it saddens me because
There,
like
there's a less fancy word. It's called entrenched, but yeah.
I love having diversity and thought.
Ooh.
What? I used a word that is off. I love diversity and thought, and it enriches you because one of the turning points in my life was when I went traveling and I was in Vietnam and just talking to like people who like different things and I I remember even like talking to Americans about politics and I was like, "Oh, this whole Obama Trump thing." And they're like, "We don't talk politics because that divides families." And I'm like, "The heck? Like that's a thing?" So, I
What
don't
a
know, it just brought to
we
perspective a lot of the
okay,
stuff.
so we talked a bit about my family, right? And that
Yes.
we the in the broader sense on my mom's side, we would have a Sunday dinner. Everybody would get together, massive family. We'd go to the same restaurant. We'd have it was Mexican food. We love Mexican food.
Love Mexican.
So we would go to this beautiful Mexican food restaurant. We would have a massive table that was reserved for us every single Sunday. We'd go and we'd have this meal. Nobody ever talked politics.
It's
It was a
not
rule.
important.
No, it was a rule. My grandfather was like, yeah, because there was an ideological divide between people, including my grandfather and my grandmother. When we
Oh,
got to that dinner, nobody talked politics, and it was amazing. And look, I learned a lot of things at breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Almost all of them were not related to politics. They were related to
sure.
science, discovery, music, all kinds of things, but
It's beautiful.
they were never politics. And I think
Really
that
beautiful.
look, if I were to tell somebody this is the right way to raise people, and I'm not talking about kids, I'm just people in general, that would be the way to go about it. Take make the first of all, force the issue when it comes to getting together to have a meal together. Even if it's
Mhm.
just once a week. Hopefully it's more than that, but just
Yeah.
once a week. Force that issue. Create a tradition and then utilize all of those other things to have a conversation, to expand the mind, to expand
Yeah.
all that other stuff. Yeah.
Like, if we think about just importance, I think morality is above political, divide or your
Yeah.
politics.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And, being a good person and treating people with respect and dignity is way more important than who you align with. You know, it it really sucks to think that people are so against each other just on a
Here,
decision like
well,
that.
here's the problem. When politics trump morality, you end up with a situation where you can no longer evaluate good and bad in those
Yeah.
and within that frame, right? Within that context. Which is kind of where we are now, right? Because I mean, a lot of people can point out to things that they think are, reprehensible, but
Yeah.
because they put politics first rather than morality, then we end up where we are. I mean, you've just kind of outlined the argument for being more moral than you are politic. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, well done.
I have to kind of be like that though as a um healthcare worker because I have to take my politics, my everything, doesn't matter, even just politics, out of my decision making on that. Like we can look at how what religion is it that doesn't take blood transfusions? But anyways, so there's a
Well,
religion
I
that
mean,
doesn't
yeah, hang on.
What is it? Oh my gosh. Why can't I remember it?
It's not Seventh-day Adventist, but I think it's the same religion that Muppet guy was. Hang on, Jim Henson. Henson. I think was,
Religion. I'm Googling it. Doesn't take
yeah,
blood transfusions.
yeah.
So anyway, so that is like a Jehovah's Witness.
Well,
So obviously I'd be like,
Christian
hey,
Science,
yes,
yeah,
take the
Christian
blood
Scientists
transfusion.
don't either, yeah. So yeah,
A Christian Scientist? I didn't
yeah,
know that.
yeah. And again, I mean, it's just there's a weird thing. Hey, Tug.
So the super sticker, thank you for the $4.99. I love you. You're like recycling this, but I love that. I love you, Tuxley. We miss you.
We miss you, Doug.
So I have to take my thoughts and opinions because I would say take the blood transfusion. It's gonna save your life. I have to respect the religion, and I think that's like pretty good lessons that have brought me to this point in life. Because I don't know if I didn't take those lessons in school, whether I would be here or not. I don't know. You never know. I don't want to guess. And I'm glad for it because I think the tolerance that has been brought on from that brought me into this world. And now I can not be that person, be like, I hate you for liking this or that. Or a movie. It's so silly. You like a movie and I hate you? Like,
Okay,
what?
so what you just described is a lack of judgment.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you've removed judgment from that conversation, and look, people don't do that in any other area.
Mm-hmm. And a respect for someone's beliefs and thoughts. I mean, like, I don't understand it because I choose against it, but you know, if that's what they believe, you have to respect their beliefs.
Yeah, Tug says my hair's got more magical. I'm just gonna brush it.
Absolutely, your hair has gotten so long.
Oh, hey,
It's longer than mine, I think.
Yeah, it is. But here's the thing: I'm donating my hair, and I just did that the Canadian way. I'm donating my hair.
Donated, eh?
Donating my hair. Sorry, I'm donating my hair around my birthday, which is in November. So sometime between the first and second week of November, I will do a hair donation. I will film it again. I will make a video out of it. And yeah, no, I'll be donating somewhere between 7 and 10 inches this year.
It's good length.
Look, my hair makes, because it's so thick, it makes somewhere between 2 and 3 wigs.
Wow, whereas mine makes half a wig.
Yeah, that's weird. I mean, I'm not going to go into Asian stereotypes, but that's weird. That's weird.
Like, look at how much hair this is.
Weird.
It's not much.
It looks good though.
You put your hair into a little like. It's probably like.
Oh, dude. Yeah, if I have to pull my hair back, which is very rare, it's like rope. Yeah, that's like huge. Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, no.
Okay, getting back to modern relationships.
Sorry. Hair. We love hair. Okay, sorry.
We do, and you have beautiful hair.
Calm down, Rachel Ziegler. Okay, Tux. God, I miss her. I
do. We do have a couple super chats, so we'll just get this over with. Andrew Matthews for 2 British pounds says, X-ray movies are like paintings that change. Wow.
That's true.
It is kind of true.
No, it is.
I'm surprised you didn't say anything about Highlander, to be honest.
I love Highlander. Look,
it's okay.
You know what I really want? I want somebody to do an art film that does that style. And it's not Wish, which Disney's making this film called Wish that's going to be like a dumpster fire, but it looks like a watercolor painting come to life.
Is it a Wish.com version of their own work?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
I shouldn't laugh. Tricky for $5. Can we just reset everything to the 90s? Might just be me looking through rose-colored glasses with dating or just everything in general.
Well, look, it's tricky. I'm going to say it this way. That's what's happening. I grew up because I'm old, but I grew up coming out of the 60s into the 70s. And because of when I was born, I was able to witness the dystopian era, which we can just say the Carter years. And that moved on to the Reagan years, where things got better. And moved on from there, that despite the leadership after that, got better. And so eventually we get to a point in time where things are getting better, despite all the other pressures to push it down. Because people can't live without hope and without positivity for very long. And if you artificially push that down on them, especially in this country, they rise up against it. And so that's actually happening now. The pushback on a lot of the misinformation that is being put out there, and a lot of those other things, that's what's happening now. You're not looking through rose-colored glasses. You're just seeing what's going to happen next.
Yeah. I think that everything, as Gary says, it's the pendulum swinging. We're going back and forth.
100%.
We are going to get to a point, and I'm so excited if this actually happens, where kids are just going to be like, I like analog. I don't want to be on the internet. I think it's cooler to like play with a pocket watch that has cogs. What?
Well, but see, that's weird because it's already happening. I mean, we're seeing it in real time. But it's just going to start ticking back the other direction. And it's just, fashion's doing the same thing. Look at fashion. The fashion
Bell
world.
bottoms are coming back.
Well, it's not just that. I mean, fashion trends have always been a little bit more rapidly cyclical. But I mean, brighter colors, all that other stuff. I mean, look, you can say that Barbie, which I do think is incredibly modernity oriented, right? In fact, I think it's absolutely man-hating, but that's a whole other conversation. I think the visuals of that film speak to like the transition going from the 70s, the mid to late 70s towards the 80s. I think things will get more radical in the future. And I think a lot of people are going to turn away from this stuff. And you can only take dour for so long. So,
yeah. And I think that, like, I had a conversation with like minority friends, and they were saying, do you think that the internet's going to be forever? I'm like, it's going to be forever, but I think there's going to be a lull to it eventually.
Yeah.
Because right now we're like taking so much information and then we're just going to turn away. I hope. I really do.
But there's evidence to support what you're saying. Again, I mean, you're seeing people now reject a lot of stuff that they're getting from a lot of different sources. People know that information can be
Curated
and curated and a lot of other things.
Like the UFO in Mexico, the alien bodies.
We can certainly get into all of that, but it's just I just want everybody to realize you live in a bigger world than the tiny little box that you're given every day. And it's whether that be a phone, a television, a computer, the world's bigger than what's presented. The things that you're presented, absent like a few YouTube channels and Rumble and a few other places, and maybe a few feeds in Twitter and some other places, you're being fed a lot of just what they want you to see. I mean, X-ray goals is the right word, curated. You're fed just such a myopic view. It's and the worse yet, it's approved. It's not approved by you. It's approved by the powers that be. And I think a lot of people have started to walk away from that. And it's one of the reasons why I think shows like this one, shows like Friday Night Tights, many other places that I am fortunate enough to be, like Midnight's Edge and places like that. People are rejecting modernity. They're rejecting that little myopic box. And every day we're proved right. This is inaccurate information. You're being lied to. I mean, you had people like Valiant Renegade, WW Pro, Midnight's Edge, all dropping stories today, pointing you to the fact that you're being lied to about film budgets, television budgets, profitability for corporations. You're not going to get that any other place. It's not covered by the mainstream media. the math is out there. You can do it yourself. But when it comes back to the things we're talking about today, you're being lied to about what modern life should look like with dating, with relationships, with interpersonal communications, with emotional IQ. And the thing is people are waking up, and it's because, and this is something that I love that Gary says, and you probably hear it a lot. We mock it and make fun of it. We point out its shortcomings. It can't withstand that kind of scrutiny. It just can't.
And I hope we learn from it. And whatever or however your relationship looks like, as long as you're happy with it, even if it's one that people are probably gonna say that's weird, you're crazy.
Weird.
If it works for you, hey, I can't judge you, because it's up to you to be in that relationship, whether it's good for you or me or whoever or not.
Yeah,
that's up to you.
And I'm going to say this one last thing, just one last thing, because I know we're trying to.
I like a good ending note.
If you ever feel like you need help, you want to find out what the next step is, you can probably reach out to myself, Culture Boss, X-Ray Girl, a few of us that are in pretty healthy relationships. You can probably reach out to them in a way. I'm happy to tell you what I think about something. I'm not going to tell you what to do. Okay? Because it comes down to what you and your partner are about.
And hey, we looked at Culture did send me Chris Evans married someone half his age.
Yep.
And I don't judge.
No.
Hey, if they're in a beautiful, loving relationship, they're allowed to be in that.
I'm going to tell you something right now. Age beyond being a number, right? We say that's a colloquialism, an idiom, as you say. Are you in a good relationship? Is there a future here? Can you communicate? Is it going to be productive? Will you procreate? Are you going to bring those kids around to a manner of thinking that's going to lead them to be productive in the world around them? That's kind of all you could ask for.
Yeah. That's a beautiful thing if it gets to that. So I can't judge, no matter what you look like, height, weight, looks, hair color, religion, trying to think of other things, location. Although that is my one thing. That's my red flags. Location, where you want to live. But anyways, as long as you
living
can
in Canada, you're not very picky.
If you're living in I'm not gonna lie, where would I not want to move to? Asia or Africa? Those are the two places I'm just like, Even the Caribbean, I don't want to move to the Caribbean. There's no good internet down there. So, but anyways, that's beyond, because I'm also married. But anyways, what?
Whoa, that's the
happening?
library. Yeah, those are the bookcases. That is not meant to happen. I don't know what just happened.
What just happened? I felt like we're
there.
Whoa.
Yeah, the camera's got a mind of its own. No, but you just saw part of the 14-foot bookcase on that side.
I don't care. I love that. That was cool. I love a good bookcase. I mean, I have a bookcase of plushies, not books. But
no. Well, no. I mean, it's like the bottom shelf is 4 deep in DVDs and Blu-rays, and then all the upper shelves is books, and it's 14 feet high. It's 14 feet long.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
I don't ever show any of the stuff in here.
There's a sneaky surprise there for anyone who's been here that long.
Anybody who's been in this house is like, wow, you got a lot of books. Yeah. And
I love books.
That's not all of them.
Have I shown you this? Okay, we're gonna get a little nerdy here before we leave.
Okay.
I just got in these comics I'm super excited about. But I mean, okay, my first comic was the Rippaverse comics, but
Torchwood.
Daleks, Doctor Who. This is the fourth Doctor.
Sorry.
Ninth Doctor.
Nice.
More Ninth Doctor. Anyways,
you went crazy.
10th Doctor.
What happened to you?
This was on sale. This was like £1 £3. And then it was like buy 2, get the 3rd free. So I bought these for like £30. It was amazing. And there's so many of them.
Oh, you went banana crazy.
So good. Anyways, this is like my first set of comics that I've like been absolutely banana crazy about. Like I like Rippaverse, but this is like anyways.
That's
Sorry.
fantastic. That's fantastic.
Sorry. So bookcase.
Okay, so I know we're wrapping up. I just want to say thank you. I feel very honored. I feel very honored to be the first Dadcast.
Thank you. Well, Culture, you're the first person who said you're doing something. Bring me on. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. I'll do this again. I actually think this is incredibly valuable because I think that we can help people. This is weird. I know that's
but this is like the realization. And like, hey, if you go out there and date and you find these things qualities that you don't like in a person, you're just vetting them. And then you're checking your check boxes and saying no or yes, which is awesome. It sucks when it's a lot of no's, but that's just life.
Hey, you gotta look. I mean, you can't get lucky like me. Well, I have stories. I have
very few.
I have more stories. I have more stories before the boss. We should save that for next time. We'll save it for next time.
Another Dadcast? Hell yes.
We can do that.
So yes, Culture. Where can people find you?
Oh, that's really, really hard. You only have to look for Culture Casino on YouTube, Rumble, Odyssey, Minds, Getter, or X. It's really hard for me to say Twitter. X.
You say both. I think
time
people
for me
understand.
To exit Terminator.
I only watched Terminator 2. But anyways.
No, wait, that was a song. You didn't. Oh, okay. Go ahead.
No, I didn't.
You're a kid. You're a kid. I forget you're a kid. It's fine.
Yeah, 90s baby.
That was Anthrax. Time for me to exit Terminator. Exit. Turn it up.
Is this a rock song too? Because if it's a rock song, I really wouldn't heard it.
It was rock and rap, and it was amazing.
Chris Benoit is not alive. I know that.
He's crazydead.com.
It's funny because Simcast, we didn't know who he was. He just gave him advice. Anyways.
Wait, you gave Chris Benoit advice?
He super chatted, to be fair, asking
Chris
for
Benoit
relationship advice. Benoit! Was it really him? Probably not.
Are you sure?
But I don't think so.
All right.
I really don't. Anyways, he said something about his wife being out of the picture. Yeah. Anyways, we fell for it.
Wow. That was my best Owen Wilson. Wow.
Wow.
I actually have that clip. Wow. Can we go now?
Yes. Okay. Poor choices. I don't know who's next week, but find us. We'll be around. And hopefully Tugs will be back. And much love. Love you guys. Thank you, Culture Casino, for hanging with us. I drank a lot of wine, clearly, because I can't make sentences.
I finished a bottle of wine. It's fine. It's fine. I'm old. I've built up something called tolerance.
It's the beard. That's where his tolerance goes. Love you, chat. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.